Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm Jeff.
Thanks for listening to the Stanching Tyranny Hour. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and pull up a chair while we start the march toward liberty.
That doesn't make sense. How does one march while in a chair?
Good question. You can figure it out. You're the engineer.
Well, stay tuned and we'll let you know on 1450 AM WPG.
Good morning, South Jersey.
We're back. Live.
Right? We're here. We are in the studio.
Glad to be here, too. What a beautiful morning.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. So, listeners, we have our favorite callers, of course, that call, and we're always looking for more. So, give us a call.
609-407-1450. We missed your thoughts last week. Love to hear them this week.
Hope we liked our pre-recorded show.
Yeah,
we put some work into that to try to make it as seamless as possible.
Right.
And but let's get right into it,
Absolutely,
shall we? All right. So Piers Morgan.
Piers Morgan.
Did you ever hear such a pompous guy as him?
I can't stand that guy.
I can't either.
I can't either.
So evidently he had a Tennessee state senator on,
right,
where they were talking about some apparently.
Well, apparently the state senator pointed out how ludicrous it was, the whole gun control mantra that should now be applied to pressure cookers.
Yeah, well, and evidently he made some sort of joke about it, and that got Piers Morgan's knickers all tied in a knot.
Yeah,
and obviously Piers Morgan does not listen to Stanching Tyranny because he would hear some snide remarks and jokes that we like to make regarding the whole.
Let's get right into it and let's play this clip here.
Tennessee State Senator Stacey Canfield is standing firm, refusing to apologize for a joke he made about assault pressure cookers that clearly mocked the push for more gun control in America. He's been criticized for making the joke so soon after the Boston bombings. State Senator Stacey Canfield joins me now. Mr. Canfield, what was this all about? Why did you do this?
Really just pointing out the hypocrisy of the left, how they push for gun control 10 seconds after Sandy Hook shooting, and yet when something else happens, they refuse to say that, hey, it's not the inanimate object, it's actually the person. So when people like yourself go on and say, hey, we've got to get rid of guns, we've got to push for gun control, it's just ridiculous. It's like pushing for pressure cooker control after the explosion.
Right, what other things can you do with a pressure cooker other than kill people?
You can cook food.
Right. What other things can you do with a gun other than shoot things?
Beat Piers Morgan with
other than shooting?
Yeah.
Other than shooting, well, I guess you can use it as a walking stick. You can hunt with it. You can go target practice. You can do all sorts of things.
You use a gun as a walking stick, do you?
You could. I guess theoretically you could. You could use it as a hammer if you really wanted to, but what's that have to do with anything? We're talking about
hold your hood open.
An inanimate object that does nothing by itself. It does absolutely nothing by itself, just like a pressure cooker does absolutely nothing by itself. And now that gun control has failed, Pierce, I'm wondering, when are you going to move back to England? Because everybody in Tennessee is dying to know.
Yeah, well, I'm going to hang around and just see if people can't grow enough courage in this country to face the reality of your gun violence problem. But in terms of what you did here, you don't think it's inappropriate, insensitive to be cracking jokes about pressure cookers when so many people were killed and seriously wounded? 14 people had amputations. You think that this is a joking matter, do you?
The joke was really about the left and how they push for gun control on inanimate objects. It's like pushing for, spoon control for obesity. It doesn't do anything. You're
likening spoons to guns, eh?
Well, I'm likening it into the possibility of controlling someone's actions just because they're thinking their actions are controlled by inanimate objects.
Right, so you're comparing, say, the slaughter of 20 children at Sandy Hook with an AR-15 assault rifle, or the murderous activities of these two bombers at the Boston Marathon, to a spoon. Is that what you are telling me, Senator?
No, what I'm saying is people who, like yourself, who try and perpetrate that a gun, inanimate object, is actually what killed the people instead of saying it was the person with the gun, is very similar to someone saying a bomb killed someone instead of a person who constructed a bomb and blew it up.
Do you believe that the answer to gun violence is that more people should be armed?
That's statistically what's always proven to be the case. Usually where you have gun control places like Southside Chicago, New York City, that's where your highest gun crimes are. It's proven it time and again. Whenever you try and get rid of guns, violent crime goes up.
So presumably your answer to what happened in Boston is that more people should carry bombs around, is it?
Well, I don't have a problem. You know, like I said, you're not going to be able to stop violence by getting rid of the inanimate object. You're not going to get rid of... criminals are still going to have guns.
That wasn't my question. That wasn't my question.
Still going to have it.
My point is, if you believe the answer to gun violence is more guns...
Bombs are already illegal. Aren't bombs illegal?
If you think the only way to deal with this is more guns... Well, the whole point is a lot of guns are illegal. The whole point of the gun control campaign wasn't to grab your guns or anybody else's guns. It was to try and make military.
Just to try and do like Australia did.
Yes,
Australia did the exact same thing.
Yes. And
they did it in Australia first, and then they took it.
Click that. Yeah, there it is.
Right
he admits it. Yes, just like in Australia, that's what they want for here.
In Piers Morgan's mind, the gun control in Australia was a successful campaign for the country. So let's talk about gun control in Australia a little bit, shall we?
Yeah, so Australia used to be very proud of its gun heritage.
That's right.
Much like we are today, right?
That's correct. But in fact, today in Australia, firearms have virtually no part in Australian culture. An entire generation of citizens have never even held a gun. Now, that wasn't always the case. The transformation from a gun nation to a gun-hating nation is a slow one, but it's a deliberate one. So in Australia, few Americans know that in February 1942, Australia had its own, quote, Pearl Harbor, with the bombing of the city of Darwin. In fact, while far less significant as a military target, a greater number of bombs was dropped in this raid than in the Pearl Harbor attack. In its immediate aftermath, civilians of all ages collected their guns, assumed their posts, and waited.
So the Japanese attacked Australia with the intent of invading, apparently.
Yep.
And how did Australians respond again?
They took up their guns, and even the civilians of the indigenous population, the Aboriginals, assisted, using guns to kill or capture Japanese prisoners of war. Then 3 months later, the Japanese attacked the harbor of Sydney. Full-scale invasion appeared inevitable. The people of Sydney immediately grabbed their firearms, met with their neighbors, and took to the streets. Thankfully, despite the Japanese having printed currency specifically prepared for use in Australia, the invasion never happened.
Wow.
Now,
that is interesting.
Fast forward, so after that, Australia was quite proud of their reaction during this time of trouble. But fast forward a bit to 1996, and that's in 1996 was the Dunblane school massacre in Britain, in Britain on April 28, 1996, in Port Arthur, Tasmania. A 29-year-old mentally ill man used his Colt AR-15 semi-automatic rifle to kill 35 people.
Wow, that sounds familiar.
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
Absolutely. And that was the first step toward what we have now, which is a whole generation that not only has never even handled a gun, but is probably just beside themselves with fear over guns, I would think. Before we continue with that, let's go to Lillian in Pleasantville. Good morning, Lillian. How are you this morning?
Good morning, gentlemen. Tell me your names again.
Jim and Jeff.
Jim and Jeff.
Yep.
Well, how to do? I want to ask you guys if you think the fertilizer flare-up was set purposely, or was that just a sheer accident?
The one down in Texas?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you know, I didn't follow that too closely, although I did watch one video.
We didn't. And this bombing took over everything.
Yeah, it sure did. Yeah. It sure did.
Interesting couple of things on that fertilizer plant explosion, though, that I did catch in the alternative news is, number one, that company had been fighting with Monsanto.
Now, people who might not know who Monsanto is basically a huge agriculture conglomerate that basically wants to get control of every bit of food you put in your mouth.
Right.
okay.
Right. Yeah. And the other interesting thing is that earlier this year, or maybe it was last year, Monsanto bought a company by the name of Blackstone?
I think so.
Blackstone or BlackRock, something like that. Who is basically they're a mercenary group. They're it's a militarized mercenary group. Monsanto bought them. So you put those together and you got to start to wonder. Well,
when you say a missionary group, what do you mean by that exactly?
Mercenary. So they're hired guns.
Hired guns, yeah.
So they're made up of retired military, ex-Navy SEALs and Rangers and whatnot, and they do covert operations.
Covert operations.
Is this international or our country? What?
They're based in our country, but they work internationally. Yeah. And it's just odd that a agriculture company would buy a mercenary company.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then at the same time, you have this explosion at a competitive, very anti-Monsanto fertilizer plant. Now, does that mean that, of course, it's all circumstantial.
Right.
That one doesn't necessarily mean that it's related to the other, but it sure don't smell right. And we like to point out things that don't smell right.
But listen, would fertilizer just explode or catch fire or whatever it does? Would that be a product that in extreme heat or whatever just explode?
That's a good question, Lily. I don't know enough about it.
Okay.
I don't know either. Okay. And my impression is that you have to combine it with a certain other ingredient in order to make that happen.
Yeah, so, it's not like the local hardware store or garden center is going to explode because it has a bunch of fertilizer.
Right.
It has to be under the right conditions. I'm not real sure what they are.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that information because I thought, gee, these people suffered over there too in a horrible goings-on.
Right.
And yet the bombing overpowered everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, thanks very much.
Thanks for calling.
Take care.
Bye.
And you want to let's go to Carl before we pick our topic up. Good morning, Carl. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Jim and Joe?
Good. We missed you guys all last week.
Yeah. What I was going to say is, maybe we should compare having weapons to having jumper cables. They're really nice to have when you need them.
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right, because maybe the person, if you don't have them, you could wait a real long time for them to get there to jump your vehicle.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't have a gun to protect yourself, you could be dead before the police get there.
Yeah.
And take that a step further. If you have jumper cables and you see someone in distress, you can help them.
Yeah, that too.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with a weapon.
You could save them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, Carl. But see, that's what the government, and we'll be getting into this a little bit more in today's show. That's really what the government wants. They want to be the purveyor of the jumper cables.
Yeah.
They want to be the rescuer because then that gives the government validation.
Well, in this state, it should be easier for us to get guns instead of so hard that it is.
Oh, and they're working on making it even harder.
Yeah,
Carl.
wait till you hear, Carl, about what they're working on. We'll be getting into that this morning for sure. But
right, where you can't even protect you got to retreat in your own home and somebody breaks in. It's like, how ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I've emailed our governor with a big long thing like, how about we mirror Florida's laws, for example, with guns. That's what we should be doing, not making it harder to get guns.
Yeah.
And missionary group, or whatever. I thought that was a sexual position. I don't know.
Mercenary. You got it.
I couldn't help. I had to throw that out. But why? How come our president hasn't come out and mentioned the Muslim terrorists?
Because he's worried about air traffic control.
Yeah, more important.
Oh yeah, you mean what he calls, and thought he could blame it on the Republicans and the voters. I don't know if they're just see that he doesn't have any clothes or what, that they're really starting to figure it out, what he's doing. You know, you got to do it where it makes people suffer.
Exactly.
And I think they're starting to see through it.
Yep.
You know what's interesting? I was on the internet yesterday and I saw something that surprised me. It's the statewide voter registration summary. And I would have thought there's more Democrats. I'll take Atlantic County.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, you know, there's more Democrats than anything else. But that's not the case.
It's not.
No.
Wow.
No, it is not.
Huh.
It's unaffiliated.
Wow.
I guess that would be independence.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, that's interesting.
Oh, we can only hope it continues to move that way.
And it's pretty much almost every county.
Yeah. Huh.
Wow. I wonder if that's a recent trend or if that's...
well, this is 44213. I don't know.
Okay.
Let's just say 80,000 independents, 50,000 Dems, 41,000 Republicans, and then the other ones are just libertarians. Are saying it's just 64 in Atlantic County.
Wow. Yeah.
But I was really shocked about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's surprising.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Paul.
All right, good talking to you.
All right, thank you for calling.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
So, getting back to the Australian
so Australia should have been proud of themselves. I mean, they fought off an imperial army,
right,
by taking arms. The individuals taking arms,
right,
not helping the military, right?
Right.
That's the way they did it.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did, and it was different then. But the paradigm has shifted because gun control is very much part of the culture in Australia, and I'll go through some of the ideas that apparently Pierce Morgan thinks are great ideas for us here in the U.S. of A. So in Australia, to own a firearm, you are required to have a license. Application it'll take about 3 months or so for the process to all occur, the criminal checks and the safety courses, all that stuff. All your firearms have to be registered with the police.
Okay.
Self-defense is not a valid reason, and it is in fact a prohibited reason to use your gun.
Wow.
Yeah. While you may own a long gun for various reasons, there is only one reason permitted for using a handgun, and that is competition target shooting. Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. Every firearm holder must be a financial member of a registered gun club at all times. Huh. Now, notice I say a financial member.
They got to be a paying member.
That's right. So that means, you can't go to Bob's gasoline fill-up, and because you buy your gas at Bob's gasoline fill-up means you get a free membership at the gun club.
Right.
They wanted to make sure that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So you have to be a financial member.
And here's the bad part about that.
Mm-hmm.
I would be willing to guarantee that when these laws went into place, the gun ranges and the gun clubs supported the law.
You're exactly right, Boog. That's what happened back there in Australia, because the gun clubs recognized this as an opportunity to grow their business.
Of course.
And so they sold their souls to the devil. But more than that, the association, the gun club, must be approved by the commissioner, who at any time can dismiss the association, leaving all members of said association in breach of the law.
So they can just dissolve a gun club.
Correct.
For whatever reason. Maybe a friend of theirs has a gun club, and maybe he needs more members.
That would never happen.
I'm sorry.
They only do these things for the benefit of the people.
Right?
What's wrong with you? Why do you have to hate?
I'm sorry.
All right. Every time you wish to purchase a firearm, you must apply to the police for a permit to purchase that particular gun, which may be denied at their discretion without any reason provided.
Well,
so let's a scenario. So I live in Australia, and I'm just some regular bloke, That's what they call people, right, in Australia,
maybe
bloke?
Not in Australia, but in Britain they would certainly.
All right, well, I'm using the word bloke.
That's fine.
So I'm a bloke, and I live next to your house, and you happen to be the policeman who gets to approve or deny the permit. Yeah. And you don't particularly like me because I park my car a little too close to your driveway.
Yeah, I hate when you do that.
So, you come across your desk, my permit for the gun.
You know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going to do. Deny,
yeah.
That's right. So, you think that couldn't happen in Australia? No,
of course
never.
Not.
No, people aren't that petty. Let's see, what else? Every firearm must be stored in a safe that is a, quote, secured to structure.
Wow.
And the installation of the safe must be viewed and approved by police before use.
So you
because the police are so good at determining a well-built structure.
So you got to get a safe, and you got to have it installed so that basically, if you try and lift up the safe,
well, you can't.
You take the whole building with you.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And you got to get it certified
by the police.
And I'm sure you have to pay for all of that.
I'm sure you do. It doesn't say that, but I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Transportation of firearms may only occur between storage location and gunsmith or storage location and shooting location. Any breach of that will result in instant confiscation and arrest.
Right. So this is great because, you know, there are people in this country that would say, well, they still have their Second Amendment rights, right?
Yeah, we're not taking away the guns.
No, we haven't taken away their
No,
guns.
they still have their, quote, freedom. Yeah, sure you do.
Let's take another call. Let's go to Andrea in Summers Point. Good morning, Andrea.
That's funny. Good morning, Jim and Jeff, and that was a great show last week.
Oh, thank you.
I got out my passport, and I'm looking, because I had to go to New York to see the consulate to go into Australia. And the funny thing is, in bright red letters, there's employment prohibited. Isn't that amazing? And no, because I left there. Well, I've been there a few times, but Jim and Jeff, well, wait a minute. First of all, you know, on this sequester of the air traffic controllers, if you will, why didn't they shut down the late Congressman Murtha's Pennsylvania airport that gets 3 flights a month that cost us millions?
Well, because we can't do anything that would besmirch
that would only
Murtha's great name,
and that would only inconvenience a handful of people.
Right.
So that wouldn't work.
Yeah, we got to inconvenience the masses to get optimal political gain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like what Carl said. That was the Colorado Congresswoman Democrat who said that, you know, well, you'll be dead by the time the police get there anyway. But wasn't fertilizer used by Timothy McVeigh in the Murrah building?
Yes, that's correct.
Matter of fact,
and I think it's ammonium nitrate. I might be wrong, but that just comes to memory. And here's something because of your tyranny here. Now, this is absolute tyranny. Now, we're talking about Hurricane Sandy, right, that did its damage.
Yep.
And I'm reading, I saved a paper from last week because the Department of Environmental Protection, the spokesman is Larry Raganese, about rebuilding after Hurricane Sandy. And here he says, quote unquote, everyone wants a big pronouncement on the mountain, whether you believe in climate change or not. The rebuilding of these communities is going to be done in a way that would incorporate climate change.
Wow.
Now, we have 4 seasons up here, all right, in both New Jersey and New York. What the hell is their problem?
Well, here's the truth of it, Andrea. These politicians, these elitists, see this as an opportunity to purge the shore communities of the middle class riffraff that occupy the homes.
Yeah, let's face it, Andrea. This is still prime real estate.
What's that?
Like purge the riffraff.
Yeah,
like you guys,
like us guys. That's
you
right.
Can't unless it's approved. We approve Jim and Jeff's business.
Exactly.
You can't do business with them.
Yeah, and have a home on a nice piece of property at the shore.
Prime real estate where they want to have their property.
Right.
You know? I mean,
and it happens all the time. It happens all the time. We talked before about the story of the guy down in Georgia that they wanted to take his property, and they ultimately did. Yeah. There's a case of a guy down in South Carolina that owns 1,000 acres, and they're working on getting his property because these developers have their eye on it. Now, they all do it in the name of progress and in his case, adhering to
domain.
Yeah. And the eminent domain is a last resort, because what they can do before that, like down the shore here in New Jersey, is they can put these huge obstacles where people have to spend tens of thousands of dollars just to get their house to the point where they're allowed to occupy it
or insure it.
And what happens then? People say, well, I can't afford it, I have to sell, which is exactly what they want.
Right. Yep.
Well, I'm on my way down to Bayfest here in Summers Point, and I don't work at the company, but I'm just going to sit on the back of the truck selling ice. I can't wait till they tell us what temperature the ice has to be frozen at and what type of water.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
All right, you too.
Take care. Talking to you.
All right, take care. Yeah, and we'll just call it like it is. That's what Jeff and I tend to do on Stanching Tyranny, is we call it like we see it. You can pretty much bet any law or regulation that's being put forth in the guise of progress is probably in the guise of doing what the political elite class want to do at your expense.
Right.
That's the way they do it.
About.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Tony in Pleasantville. Good morning, Tony. We missed you last week.
Well, is this live or is this a tape show? I want to make sure first of all.
This is live.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Hey, if that's the case, you guys should change your name from Jim and Jeff to Riff and Raff.
That's right.
I like that.
That's right.
Riff and Raff.
There
you go.
It wouldn't be the first. Sometimes we can just be known as that without actually calling ourselves that. Because that's just the way it is.
Well, I was out shopping yesterday, and I did buy a pressure cooker that was on sale right before I got them, just before they were outlawed by Congress.
I'm glad you didn't go to Williams-Sonoma, because at that Williams-Sonoma store...
But here's the thing, and it comes in quite handy with my new job, because when them shrimp on the treadmill, when they die of exhaustion after a while, and they have a heart attack or something, they don't know what to do with the dead shrimp, so I take them off their hands and take them home and steam them up in the pressure cooker.
Right, you got plenty of cocktail sauce there. You got your ketchup and your horseradish, do you, Tony?
Oh, yeah, a little Old Bay.
All right.
A little sprinkle of Old Bay in there. There you go.
Yeah. You know what you should do? Is on the treadmill, just sprinkle some Old Bay right on the treadmill. That way, as they're running, the Old Bay will kind of like fly up onto them.
Well, it flavors them. Thanks for that cooking tip. Yeah, it flavors them while they're running there.
Exactly.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, it absorbs into the meat and whatnot.
But did you guys happen to see the 60 Minutes thing where it was on O'Reilly last night? He played it where they're absolutely they're making heroes out of these guys, making celebrities out of these two scums, that Muslim terrorists too, I might add. That they had one of his ex-girlfriends or something on there, the one that survived. Oh, I had such a crush on him in college. He was such a sweet young boy.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
So they're going to romanticize it now.
Yeah, I understand she's taking Snooki's place on the Jersey Shore. Maybe she could fill that time slot up. Maybe,
well,
you know what I mean?
That might be a good thing.
It's just sickening how they popularize the worst people. I mean, the scum of the earth. They make heroes out of them.
Yeah. Well, really, all that is the attempt to keep the story going and ingrain it into pop culture, because pop culture is what rules America anymore.
Right.
So it's important
and
that they do that.
The mother and father, they should have their own reality show. Have you seen these two lunatics?
She's spooky.
The mother and father, these two?
Yeah.
Scary.
The mother, The mother, what they don't tell you about the mother is she can't come back to the United States. She's a wanted felon.
Is
that right?
The United States.
That's right. Wow. Yeah, she robbed the Lords and Taylor.
Did she?
Yeah, and she's wanted.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
For $2,000. I guess they were all babushkas there or whatever they wrap around their head. What is that thing?
Yeah, I think it is a babushka.
Babushka or something? I don't know.
That sounds like something
one around her whole face.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there.
How'd you like to wake up her? How'd you like to wake up next to her in the morning, boys? That's enough to make any man quit drinking, or maybe start. I don't know.
Right. All right, Tony. Thank you very much.
All right, hey, keep up the good work, guys.
We will.
You still need another hour. That's all I know.
Absolutely. We'll take it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Tony. So yeah, the that whole thing, that Boston bombing, we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
What should be being talked about isn't being talked about, and we'll prove it here in a minute because it connects with what we're talking about right now.
That's right.
And that is gun control and how they did it in Australia and basically the oppression that they have now when it comes to gun rights.
And as bad
are virtually none.
Yeah, and as bad as all those things that I was going through, all those regulations and things that people have to do in order to own guns, as bad as that all sounded, that wasn't the end of it.
Of course.
That wasn't the end of it. Right. There's even more.
Mm-hmm.
So, in Australia, when you own a handgun, you have to have a mandatory attendance, a minimum of 6 target shooting visits to the pistol club per year for the first firearm, and 2 additional visits per additional gun that you have, where competition scores from approved matches must be recorded each time.
Brother.
Yeah. Also, when you own long guns, rifles, shotguns, include a minimum of 4 visits to the rifle range per year, if target shooting is declared as the reason on the license, or a minimum of 2 visits to the rifle range per year if hunting is declared as the reason.
So even if you're hunting, you got to go to the gun range for your target practice.
That is correct.
You got to prove that you had the target practice.
Yes, you do, because the records have to be kept there on the gun range.
And if you don't, you lose your gun.
That's correct, because the pistol clubs and rifle ranges are legally required to inform the police if a member has not met the required competition shoots, and they are not permitted to admit a member if the member hasn't met those requirements. Yeah. So once you don't meet those requirements, you're not allowed to join a pistol or gun club.
Oh, isn't that clever?
Yes.
And if you can't join a pistol and gun club,
you can't have a gun.
There you go. But don't worry, listeners, that's in Australia. It would never happen here, right?
No, never. Yeah. We here in America are a proud gun-loving country.
And besides, gun control failed in the Senate.
We can all go back to sleep watching Snooki on the Jersey Shore and some Honey Boo Boo, and gee whiz, who's on Dancing with the Stars this week?
Right, except wait a minute. The states are getting active with gun control, and they're doing their own thing.
Of course. See, this is the way government works. They all have their idea of how they can take away your rights, and they're a very patient bunch.
Absolutely.
They'll, of course, get on TV and they'll make their speeches saying how disappointed they are and with their scowly-looking faces and whatnot.
And disapproval.
But that's just the show.
Right.
Because behind the scenes, they'll continue to work on it. They'll just do it in different ways.
Right. Absolutely. And gee whiz, here in New Jersey, starting on Tuesday, the New Jersey State Senate Law and Public Safety Committee is scheduled to hear testimony on a new bill package that includes some nice new gun control measures.
Oh,
so let's see.
And because our gun control laws here in New Jersey are just so out of touch with the 21st century.
Oh, we got to keep the children safe.
That's right.
So let's start with a ban on dozens of popular handguns and rifles used for hunting and target shooting, and kind of camouflage it under a 50 caliber band.
Yeah, that's what they'll call it.
Yeah.
They'll call it, why should you have to have a 50 caliber weapon? But then, of course, they'll stick all kinds of weapons under that designation.
Oh, and here's an idea. No firearms training? Well, no gun rights for you.
Ah, that sounds familiar.
First-time applicants for a firearms ID card and a handgun purchase permit will be denied without proof of firearms training.
Okay.
That sounds familiar.
That sounds awful familiar.
Yeah,
it sounds like something Piers Morgan would be a big fan of.
And I would wonder what the gun lobby thinks of that.
Yeah.
You know, the gun clubs and for that matter, the NRA, right?
Right.
I mean, let's face it, listeners. If they come up with a law that says you have to be a member of the NRA in order to own a gun, is the NRA going to support that?
Yes.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
They don't care about your gun rights. They really don't.
No. They care about their existence.
Because just as often they'll sit there, the NRA, they'll sit there and say, well, this is reasonable compromise.
Right. And they'll give people like Harry Reid an A rating on their gun rights ranking score thing, whatever it is.
Yeah, which just proves that the NRA is a joke. And please, if you're sending money to the NRA, don't do it anymore. They're a joke. Yeah, exactly. Let's see, what more? Oh, I like this. This is a great one, right?
And this is all here in New Jersey.
Yeah.
But worked on by our beloved Senator Steve Sweeney.
Yeah. Isn't he great?
Yeah.
10-year jail sentences and $150,000 fine.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about this. Tell me about this.
Well, you know, if you're a parent and you pick up your children at school while en route, either to or from hunting or target shooting, or your vehicle inadvertently wanders onto school grounds, you're guilty and you're going to jail.
Guilty of what?
Of having a gun in your possession and picking up your child at a school.
Wow.
10 years.
See, these are the kinds of common sense laws that they have to establish to make sure that the guns don't make their way into the schools. And anyone who's against it obviously hates children and wants to pull their hearts out of their chests and eat them.
Yeah, exactly. And never mind the fact that most hunters are extremely responsible to the point of trigger locks on their weapons, guns in the case,
guns
not
in
loaded,
the safe.
You know, all that stuff while transported.
Right.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Nope.
If you have a gun in your possession while you're picking Junior up, whether you have a permit or not, doesn't matter.
No.
You're going to jail. 10 years and paying a $150,000 fine.
Wow. How does that sound, New Jerseyans? That sounds like reasonable.
How about this one? If you're on any kind of secret government database list.
Secret government database list, huh?
You're not
now,
a gun.
If you're on the secret government database list, does that infer that you don't know that you're on said list?
Exactly.
Because it's a secret.
Yeah. You can't know.
So who knows that you're on it if it's such a big secret?
Some bureaucrat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they could say you're on it, and you might not be on it.
Well.
And if you are on it, how do you get yourself off of it?
Well, you're implying that a bureaucrat would do something dishonest.
No.
That would never happen.
They only do it for the people.
And how about this one? You remember that firearms purchaser ID that you got?
Yeah.
Remember that? And remember how
it's a little card thing?
Yeah, it's good for life, remember?
Yeah.
Well, forget all that.
Oh.
Yeah, they're going to terminate those. They're not good for life.
Oh.
Of course, when they passed that law, they said, well, don't worry. This is good for life, and once you have it, it's yours forever. And we said, yeah, you know, that sounds reasonable. I mean, you know, if you get it, you just get it one time, and, you know, it's good for life.
And besides...
why would we argue with that? That's reasonable.
And besides, the fees go towards maintaining the public hunting grounds and whatnot,
right,
you know.
Right. Yeah, except for the fact that they were just kidding.
Right.
Yeah, so they're going to do away with that. And they're going to replace those with a data strip on your driver's license.
Ah, what a great idea that is.
And we've talked about the driver's licenses here in New Jersey and the facial recognition software and the fact that it was a federally, we implemented that
the federal
with
real
federal
ID,
money, the Real ID program.
Yep.
And let's face it, they're coming with the employment ID.
We talked about that before.
And don't forget Obamacare.
Right.
So
it'll be all tied together.
And, well, of course, they'll tell us that they won't be using it for anything that would violate our rights, right?
Never.
Of course, right. And, of course, the last thing here I see here is ammunition purchase regulations.
So you'll need some sort of license. You'll need some sort of license in order to buy ammunition now.
Right. Yeah, so that's all in this draft of bills that are coming down the pike. Except, wait a minute, this headline from NJ.com says, New Jersey Assembly may not consider Senate gun control package without change. What change, do you ask? Maybe somebody's standing up for the Second Amendment and saying, you know what? That's too much. That's over the top.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but, of course, maybe not.
Right.
Maybe it's not strong enough.
Oh.
Says State Assemblyman Lou Greenwald, Democrat from Camden County, New Jersey.
Thanks, Lou. Yeah, you're A-okay. I'm glad you're looking out for me there, Lou.
Yeah, the organization called Mayors Against Illegal Guns had planned to endorse Sweeney's package of bills at a news conference Friday in Atlantic City, but balked because of a provision that would have extended the life of a handgun purchase permit from 90 days to 4 years.
You can't have that.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. So listeners, just so you know how it works here in New Jersey, is if you want to buy a handgun, you basically have 90 days to do so once you get your permit.
Well,
kind of, because really you only have 30 days.
The main thing is the background check.
Right.
Is only good for 90 days.
Yeah,
that's what this is about.
That's what it is, yeah.
The background check is good for 90 days.
Right.
After 90 days, whether you bought a gun or not, doesn't matter.
Right.
After 90 days, you got to go through the whole background check process.
Right.
And apparently in this package of bills included a provision that would have extended that to 4 years for the background check.
And that's making it easier to buy guns in his mind,
absolutely,
I'm sure.
Yeah. Not long afterward, Assembly Majority Leader Lou Greenwald warned that the bills proposed by his fellow South Jersey Democrat would not even be considered because they lacked a provision to reduce the size of magazine clips from 15 bullets to 10. Lou Greenwald said, "Let me be crystal clear. As Majority Leader, I would not advocate moving any gun violence prevention package unless a ban on high-capacity magazines is included. Without it, it's not meaningful reform. We are not going to consider a package of bills unless there is meaningful reform."
Oh, shut up, Lou. You're annoying.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, how's that, Lou?
Yeah, so Lou wants to... in a state where we don't need reform here in New Jersey, right? We already have about the second strongest gun control laws in the whole country, Lou. So mind your own business. Go back to work bothering other people. How's that? But all what this sounds like is actually a haven, a utopia for Piers Morgan.
Yeah.
You know, I got a great idea.
Okay.
Piers Morgan hasn't left, right?
He's still here.
He's still here.
He's going to stay here until we have the courage or some... whatever.
So, he's going to stay. So, here's what we do, listeners. We pull our money together. We put together, $10,000, $20,000, whatever it is. Enough to buy a nice little row house in either Camden or Newark.
Yeah.
And we require Piers Morgan to live there because obviously he will be completely safe.
I can think of
living there. He'll be fine
Mm-hmm.
because the gun control laws are set up in such a way that in the evening, if he needs a gallon of milk or wants to take for a dog for a walk, or if he just wants to go for a little stroll after dark
he don't have
in Camden or Newark, he doesn't have nothing to worry about at all. So that's what I think we should do for good old Pierce.
Yeah, but can we get him a bus pass too, like a year bus pass?
Well, yeah, we can throw that in.
Yeah, because we want him to be able to get around freely, right?
Yeah, sure.
And we don't want to trample on his rights, do we?
That's right, for the rights to move about freely.
Sure.
Of course not. But you know what cracks me up is Piers Morgan's statement that he wants to stay to see if Americans get the courage to pass meaningful gun control laws. Doesn't that crack you up?
Yeah.
Courage?
Courage. Yeah, so let's talk about courage.
Yeah.
Courage is what they had in Australia in 1942.
That's correct.
They had a foreign invader coming to take over their country, and they responded individually by taking up arms to protect themselves and to protect their neighbor.
Right. That's courage,
That's
Pierce.
courage. Courage is not, what did they call it? What did they call it?
Shelter in place.
That is not courage.
No.
That is wimpiness.
That is
spineless,
state-sponsored mamby-pambyism.
Yeah. So, sheltering in place while your government sends a bunch of goons around your neighborhood
9,000 of which
kick you out of your house and
at
go
gunpoint.
searching your house at gunpoint, sticking guns in your faces and screaming in your face to get your arms up. That's not courage.
Yeah. And that drives me crazy. So now you got this whole Boston Strong thing.
Yeah.
Boston
So
Strong.
we're supposed to believe that Bostoners had courage during this thing. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall seeing the citizens of Boston taking up arms and going out in the streets and finding this guy themselves and kicking the crap out of him, which is the way it used to be, that people were too afraid to do stuff like that because they didn't want to get their butts kicked.
Yeah.
That's the way it used to be.
But understand, Bog, that is exactly the opposite of what the government wants. See, the government wants the people to be in the perpetual state of fear, so that they can react to the problems and be the hero. And they're being heralded as these heroes that found the bomber. They didn't find anything. No. The guy was smoking a cigarette in Outback and saw that the kid had gotten into his boat.
Right.
That's who found him. 9,000 plus troops, let's call them what they were, couldn't hunt this guy down, despite sticking guns in mothers' faces and old ladies' faces and yelling and screaming at them as if they were the terrorists.
Right. Yeah. So Boston Strong is just an insult to my intelligence.
That's exactly what it is. It's just a pop culture mamby-pamby statement of some supposed American strength, when the reality is the American citizenry's strength has been drained from her over the course of the last 100 years.
Yeah. But, of course, we here at Stanching Tyranny, we like to celebrate. We like to celebrate these things. We like to celebrate Boston Strong. And to do so, we've come up with a nice anthem. We call it the Boston Strong Anthem. Scott, if you could just click on the tab there.
Yeah, this is the Boston Strong Anthem that we have, and we're going to go right ahead and hear and play it.
I know of a place where you never get harmed, a magical place with magical charms, indoors, indoors,
and there it is. Go ahead and pause there. That was the end.
That's the Boston Strong Anthem.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's the perfect anthem because that's exactly what happened in Boston. So the strength of Boston perpetuates differentiates itself when you go indoors, indoors, indoors.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a phone call. Lillian? Hi, Lillian.
Yeah, hi. I have one idiot question. I'm glad I found your program first.
Us too.
Thank you.
Yeah, and now when you say I'm in the process of getting the permit, it's only good for 30 days when you do get it?
Yeah, you have your handgun permit, and each handgun permit is a 30-day permit.
Right. So once you get it,
you
only have 30 days.
And go all through it again?
Yes, after 90 days. After 90 days.
After 90 days, it expires whether you bought a gun or not, and you have to go through it all again.
Yeah. So what most
what a money grab.
Yeah, well what most people do, Lillian, is because of the 90-day requirement, what most people do if they can afford it is buy 3 permits because they're good for
30
days each. Now, Lillian, you cannot take your 3 permits and go out and buy 3 handguns today. Right. You have to buy 1 today, wait 30 days.
No. I wouldn't do that. I don't need 3 guns.
No, but my point is, let's say you did want them. You can only buy 1 handgun per 30-day period, and if that period lapses...
Oh, I see what you mean.
Then you're SOL. You have to go through the process to get the permit all over again.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens to the gun shows and the gun dealers?
Yeah, well, that's a very complicated process. A lot of people see on the news they make it sound like these gun shows are a matter you just walk in and you buy a gun, and nothing can be further from the truth. It's a lie that they're perpetuating on the news. The fact is, in the gun shows, it's all the same process. And what has to happen is, if I am selling a gun to you, you can't just walk out with it. I have to send it to a registered firearms dealer in New Jersey who has to take care of the bureaucratic process.
How are they, excuse me, and I don't do things half-assed, but how are they going to know that? So you're moving or somebody died or whatever, and they say, here, do you want this? Why can't you take it?
Well, yeah, you can't, because if you're not registered to own it, then you can get put in jail.
Right.
It's going to say what type of weapon on that license you own, the actual serial number or whatever they do?
Yes, everything.
Exactly.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what I wanted to know, and you're good guys. I like you.
Oh, thank you very much, Lillian. We like you too.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
So long. And but the Boston Strong anthem. I just love that anthem. It is so appropriate to what happened there in Boston.
And isn't that exactly what they want?
Yeah.
They want us to shelter in place, crawl under our beds, get in the fetal position, suck our thumbs.
Yeah.
That's what they're after. They don't want us to be independent.
Because remember, listeners, individual independence, like Jeff said, is the enemy of statism. It's the enemy of government. The government needs you to need them.
Right. Yeah.
It's like the old Cheap Trick song. I think it was Cheap Trick.
Was that Cheap?
I want you to want me and all that.
Yeah, that's Cheap Trick. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the rock and roll reference.
Yeah. And that's what they want. Mm-hmm. That's what the government wants. That's the government's ultimate end game. And it doesn't ever stop, because they need the government to grow. Right,
and it goes way beyond just this topic. You can see it with the employment numbers, the job participation rate, the participation rate in federal programs of assistance.
Yes.
It's rampant.
And the only way we can stop this really isn't to appeal to our politicians, because they're not going to listen to you. I'm not saying don't appeal to them. Don't write your letters.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you should
that.
Most certainly do that. You should make your voice heard. But at the same time, it involves refusing to participate in their fixed rigged game.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean to do anything illegal, right? We're not saying that. Our point is that in order to not participate in the rigged game, we have to more or less unplug from the rigged game and figure out ways that we can be more independent on our own.
Yeah. Step number 1, we like to say, is go the Zero TV Club, like we are. No cable TV. We only have an internet connection at the house. We don't have the TV on, network news. It's all there just to spread propaganda.
Yep.
Step 2, get out of debt. Sell some junk, get some cash, pay off debt, get free of debt.
Yeah.
Which is contrary to what they want you to do.
And I want to point out that step 1 and step 2 are so closely related. They might not appear to be on the surface, but they are. Because when you unplug from the propaganda machine, from the mindless programming that happens through things like, you know, commercials and Honey Boo Boo and all that.
Even the news.
The news anymore, is all generated to make you want the latest and greatest and the most, the neatest new car.
Yeah, it's designed to make you want to consume and go into debt.
Yeah, so by doing those two things, you are disavowing yourself from the system. And that's progress.
Absolutely.
Because if you can want less, you can do more on your own.
Yeah.
And that's what we like to talk about here on Stanching Tyranny.
Right. And once you have that process underway, at the same time, it's time to learn some skills.
Yeah.
Learn some skills that will allow you to be independent by growing your own food, maybe having some chickens.
But we haven't delivered Carl's chickens yet.
We haven't delivered Carl's chickens.
You know, Carl, you really have to make sure you have a decent fence around your garden because those chickens,
they'll eat your veggies.
They'll pluck all the leaves right off of your tomato plants faster than you can blink an eye.
But Carl, you only need like 2 chickens. I think would be perfect for you.
Yeah, it would.
Little chicken coop.
And they eat the ticks and the bugs and whatnot.
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Thank
you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.